What is happening, everybody? I hope you guys are having a wonderful day / evening / whatever time it is, wherever you are. I'm just chilling in my new little studio space here and hanging out. I wanted to talk to you guys about some lenses today. Specifically, I wanted to talk about my lens collection because over the couple of years that I've been doing this now, it seems to be growing. What's up, Mike? Welcome. We got Oscars in the house. Third Ladanio? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but welcome. Master Lord is in the building. Ricardo's here. Master Lord is asking questions right off the bat. I'm gonna bank that one in my memory and just give some people a second to get in here. Noah, welcome. Thanks for coming out. Welcome to Coffee Time with Dunna Did It. I got my coffee here. My wife is so nice and just made me this coffee because I was getting the whole place set up, trying to get this thing ready. I had to like flip my whole office around here to try and make this happen. We got Jean is in the house. Now or Never's in here. 2 a.m. in Switzerland. Thanks for coming. Chandler, Jury, Kyle and Andrea, welcome. George is in here. Maybe Jorge. Fernandez. It could go either way. Sean, welcome. John's in here. Uh-oh. I don't know how to say that. You've got characters in your name that I'm not sure how to pronounce. So maybe it's like Chalet? Shally? Welcome, regardless. Mike, Dylan, Abigail's here. HD Vids. Another Mike. Cato Studios. We got some Winnipeg in the house. Other Canadians here. It's George. Okay, cool. Good to know. I'll try and remember that for next time. Thanks, George. Wait. George with a G and not a J. George. Okay, I think I see what you're saying. Anyway. Vladi, hey, what's up? Welcome. I got it. Yes. All right. Sean's here from Ireland. B-Roll Apprentice is here. Ken's here from Vegas. We're all over the place right now. Netherlands. Oh, man. Isn't it like 3 in the morning there right now? Will these be FE or E lenses? Mix of both. It'll be a mix of both. I'm going to talk about both my APS-C and my full frame stuff. More Winnipeggers. Andrew's in here. Welcome. Chicago. What else do we got going on? Okay, I just wanted to say hey to everybody. We still got people showing up. Ricardo says he doesn't have a lot of time, but he was thinking of buying a Sigma 18-35 f1.8 for the Nikon D5600. It's a fantastic focal length. It's for a APS-C camera. Is the 6500 or 5600 APS-C? I don't know Nikon that well, but if it is, such a nice lens, and especially if you don't have to adapt it. The only reason I never bought that lens is because I would have had to adapt it, and I'm not a big fan of adapters. All right, rocking the NT1A. You know it all the time. Larry's here from Ontario. Too late for coffee in Germany. Well, welcome anyway. There will be a recording. I'll leave it up. I think I'm going to start leaving these up for about a week. I want to encourage people to come and enjoy them live, but I know that I do these like late in Canada. So if you guys are watching from across the pond there, it's early over there. 2 a.m. Patagonia in the building. We got so many people popping in. We got Uruguay. There we go. Okay, thanks for clarifying, George. So George English, Jorge Spanish. Thank you. I'll try and remember that for next time because you're always kicking around. We got Oregon. All right. Okay, I'm gonna get into starting to talk about some of my lenses. So the basic idea that I had for today was that I would talk you guys through the accumulation of lenses that I've had over the last couple of years. I have done some like buying and selling, so not everything that I've ever owned is in here, but I'll just talk you guys through what I currently have And then you guys will have a chance to ask any questions if the chat is moving fast. So if you guys want to ask a question, you want to make sure that I notice it. There is the super chat option. No pressure for anyone who that doesn't work right now. But if you want it to pop up and stay up, I think if you drop a couple of bucks in there for some coffee money, then that'll help make sure that I see your question, because it's moving fast in there. And also, if you just wanted to give me some coffee, every cent that comes from these live streams goes straight into caffeine that goes straight into my bloodstream. All right. Okay. Let's kick this thing off here. So, okay, I'm gonna divide these a little bit because we've got a couple of different categories here. Okay, we got APS-C lenses, which. Where are all my APS-Cs? There we go. APS-C. This guy's an APS-C. And then this guy's an APS-C. And then we got some full frame lenses over here. Now, you guys might know, if you've been watching my channel for a little while, you guys know that I shot APS-C for a long time. So I've had my channel for probably, we got to be going on 3 years now. And so I started out with the A6000. I went up to an A6500. I ended up getting a second A6000 at some point, and then I sold that and got another 6500. So I was rocking 2 of those. And then the 6400, now the 6600. So I've had a lot of APS-C cameras, and I also built up my kit to go along with it. Now, the kind of main setup for my kit was the Sigma Trio and the 18-105. Now, I went through a handful of other lenses, including the Sony 50mm f1.8, which is a fantastic lens and really cheap to start out with. A great lens to get going on like portrait photography and that kind of stuff if you don't have a lot to spend. But this is what I have right now. So my main kind of all-around lens is the Sony 18-105. Now I'll try and see if I can make this focus for you guys. No, it's not happening. Come on. There we go. 18-105. So this is kind of my mainstay as far as zoom lens goes. And I know that I just saw a video, I forget who posted it, Jason maybe, that posted a video all about zoom lenses versus prime lenses, and you guys might have some questions about that in a little bit, but I'm a big fan of zoom lenses. Anytime that I can make things easier and not have to switch lenses a whole bunch, I'll take it. So the 18-105 is probably the most used APS-C lens that I have. It's a fantastic range. 18 is wide enough that you can vlog with it. It's not super wide, but for me, I've got pretty long arms, so if I need to hold the camera away, 18 seemed to be wide enough to get a decent head and shoulder shot. And then the 105 end is very cool. If you want to shoot portraits with it, you can get like a nice shallow depth of field if you really want to. It's the equivalent of about 150, 750 or so. So it's a pretty fantastic lens. It's not super sharp. That's the caveat with this one, is the caveat? How do you say that word? Anyway, that's the trick with this one, is that it's not an uber sharp lens. As far as like visual IQ, it's really not anything to write home about, but it's just so versatile. Now it is an f4, so it's not fantastic for low light either. If you're in a low light situation, I've shot some like events and stuff with it where it was pretty low light and got away with it because Sony does a pretty good job in low light, even with the APS-C series. But yeah, it's f4, so it is what it is. You got to expect that. And a lot of the APS-C zoom lenses are f4 lenses. As far as I'm aware, they only make one true APS-C lens in f2.8, and it's the 16-55 that they just came out with, which is a fantastic lens. And at some point, I'll probably cave and buy it. Excuse me. So yeah, that's the 18-105. If you guys saw, the like travel video that I made this summer of my wife and I going to the West Coast. That whole thing basically was shot on the 18-105 with maybe a couple of few pickup shots if I really needed to get some crazy shallow depth of field or something like that. But yeah, I love the 18-105. It's probably the most versatile lens and the one that I typically suggest for people first getting an APS-C Sony camera. Yeah, you guys got any questions about the 18-105? Dang, the chat is moving fast here. George says the real question is that golden hour blend? My coffee is not golden hour blend. This is Kicking Horse coffee, 454 horsepower. It comes from, it's roasted in BC. I'm drawing a blank on what the name of the town is, but we've been through there. It's really nice. That's my favorite coffee. Until someone comes out and decides they wanna make the Dunna blend. All right, you guys are crushing with the chat here. Welcome everybody. If you're just joining in, we're chatting about lenses today. I'm going to talk you guys through my lenses, and I just finished with the 18-105 f4 from Sony. Moving on, the one that's currently on my a6600 and lives on my a6600 like 90% of the time is the Sigma 16mm f1.4, and this is the lens, man. This is the one that everybody loves. People talk about this lens all the time. I think every month without fail, when I look at my Amazon affiliates and stuff, this is the one that people are buying the most, using my links anyway. So I think that this is probably one of the most popular lenses that you can buy for the Sony system. And it really is just so fantastic. 16 millimeters on APS-C makes it approximately a 24 millimeter equivalent for full frame. Because it's the f1.4, it's the shallow depth of field on it is so beautiful. Even being a wide lens, getting that shallow depth of field just makes such a huge difference, as well as it's fantastic in low light. It just really is a fantastic lens. If you're a vlogger and you have the a6600 or a6500, something with in-body stabilization, it'll work really well with that. It'll still work with the 6400 or the 63 or whatever, any of the ones without the IBIS in them. But it's, you gotta factor in the fact that it might not have quite the same stable kind of shots that you want to get. I have done a couple of vlogs with it on the a6400 and it worked out fine as long as you're super careful about it. And actually in my review for this lens, I did a couple of little suggestions on how you can get more stable shots. I should probably do a video on that on its own, but yeah. Anyway, Sigma 16mm f1.4. Again, that's the one that lives on my 6600 most of the time. When I do all the quick pickup shots that I do for, let's say, Instagram stories or all of the live streams that I've done so far, where I'm usually over at my desk and stuff like that, this is the one that I've been shooting on. Absolutely love it. Great autofocus, super low light. Yeah, just fantastic. And then rounding out the Sigma trio here, we've got the 30mm f1.4 and we've got the 56mm f1.4. The 30mm for a long time was the sharpest lens that I think I had for my Sony system, and that just always blew me away. The 16mm is super sharp, but I think that the 30mm is even more sharp than that one, and it's just it blew me away when I first got it. I absolutely love it for portrait photography, for kind of a wider portrait, because it's a 45mm full frame equivalent, so it's not quite like a typical portrait lens. It's still a little bit zoomed in a little bit wider than that comparatively to people like to use a 50 or an 85 or even a 105 kind of thing. So we're getting pretty close to that 50 range that people really like, but absolutely love this lens. Again, same fantastic features as the 16, where it's the 1.4, so you get super shallow depth of field. It's got great autofocus, super good in low light because of that fast aperture. Just a fantastic lens as well. We got the 56 millimeter. Now, when this came out, it rounded out the trio, and they do sell these three as a trio, as a package with like a little case that comes with it, and it's really cool, and it saves you, I think, a couple $100 off the whole thing. But yeah, super fantastic mix to have all three of these, and they just really take you through the whole gamut of like 3 different kind of focal lengths that you could use. Again, not as convenient as a zoom lens, but still pretty great for covering all your bases as far as you can get on the APS-C system without just buying a zoom lens. And then with all 3 of them, you get that f1.4 super creamy bokeh. Amazing lens. This thing is probably as sharp, if not sharper, than the 30mm f1.4, which is obviously really impressive considering that the 30mm 1.4 for a long time was considered the most sharp lens that you could buy for the Sony A6000 series of cameras. Yeah, just all around the Sigma trio, they really outdid themselves, and they're really not that expensive for what you're getting anyway. Like, as far as, obviously there's a huge range of prices for lenses. You can get everything from, you know, your nifty 50 that might cost you $150 all the way up to thousands and thousands of dollars. But you know, these are relatively inexpensive for the quality that you're getting. Sigma really did a fantastic job with all of these, and I look forward to seeing what else they can do. Hopefully they can do some more APS-C zoom lenses. They're known for the 18 to 35 f1.8, but it hasn't been made for the Sony E-mount system. In fact, I don't know if it's been updated from whatever mounts they made it on a long time ago. But yeah, so those are my APS-C lenses. I think those are all my APS-C lenses. Yeah, those are all my APS-C lenses. What's up? Paul Feinberg's in the house. I'm gonna take a drink here of my coffee. I'm going. I'm going for it. Talking here. Do you guys have favorite APS-C Sony lenses? Drop those in the chat. Couple of questions here. Patrick says, why do they say fast lens? So basically, I think that comes down to being able to shoot fast shutter speeds. I believe, anyway. Why am I drawing a blank on this? I feel like I should know this. Being able to shoot fast shutter speeds, because the faster the shutter speed, the darker the image is, and then the faster the shutter speed, the darker the image is, and so fast lenses means that they have a wide aperture that will let in a lot of light, making it kind of compensate for having to shoot at faster shutter speeds. I believe that's where the term fast comes from anyway. So for example, these f1.4 lenses have a really wide aperture, so so that you can use a faster shutter speed to let the same amount of light in, whereas this f4 lens has a smaller aperture which lets in less light. Yeah, I have a video on the exposure triangle if you want to take a peek for that one, and yeah, that should give you an idea of like how to balance those 3 things. So there's ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. All right, Oscar left a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Oscar. He said, is the Rode VideoMic NTG a noticeable upgrade over the Video Micro? Not really related to the chat, but I appreciate the super chat, so I'm going to answer it anyway. Yes, it is a significant upgrade over the Video Micro. The Video Micro is great, but it doesn't sound like it's great as far as like it's tiny and it's handy, but it doesn't sound great. Thanks again for the super chat. You just bought me some coffee. I appreciate it. If anyone else wants their question to make sure that it pops up at the top there, that's the way to do it. Make sure I see it, because you guys are chatting like crazy. I love it. I love it. All right. What do we say about the APS-C lenses in here? Waldo's here from Argentina. I use the 16 too much. You can never use the 16 too much. It's actually super fantastic. It's, again, like I said, it just like lives on my A6600, and I use it all the time. It's crazy. Patrick, y'all have sold me on the 16 millimeter. There are links in the description, Patrick. Links in the description. Thanks, buddy. All right. Okay. Should we move on to full frame lenses? What do you guys think? Because recently, as you may know, if you've been watching my channel for a while, I picked up an A7 III, and I have been investing in some full frame lenses, and I think I've got a decent little kit now. I don't like to hop in right away with the super expensive ones. I try and find good value if I can. But yeah, so I think I've got a good kit here. I think you guys will like this. So let's move some stuff out of the way. My wife is being sweet and asking me if I want water. She must be watching from the other room. She's looking out for me. She got me my coffee. She's asking if I want water. Such a sweetie. All right. I didn't realize I had so many full frame lenses. Jeez. Noah says he loves when I say your names. I'm trying to connect with you guys here. That's kind of what I love about these live streams, is like it's a chance to connect. Although you guys are getting so active in the chat, it's hard to keep up with you. But it looks like you're chatting with each other, which is nice. All right. Kyle and Andrea asked, does the 18-105 work on the full frame? It does. It'll automatically put your full frame camera into APS-C mode, so you'll basically get the same thing as you would on an APS-C camera as far as like framing. Now, keep in mind, for video, it's fine as far as I can tell, because if you think about what's happening when you use a crop lens on a full frame camera, and specifically with the Sony ones, the A7 III, for example, is a 24 megapixel camera. So you've got 6,000 by 4,000. And when you crop into that, so that's a 6K frame basically. And if you crop into that, the APS-C size that you're going to get out of that, which I believe is 4,000 by 1,666, is still bigger than your 3820 by, I'm drawing a blank on what you need now. It's still bigger than what you need for, it's 2666, because it's 4,000 by 4,000 by 2666, and all you need is 3820 by 2160. My gosh, that was a lot of numbers. Anyway, what I'm getting at is that when you crop in to APS-C size by 1.5 times, the frame is still bigger than 4K, so you can still shoot 4K video without technically having to upscale it at all. So if you put something like the 18-105 or the Sigma 16mm on a full frame camera, you're still okay. It's still okay. Now, if you're taking photos, you just have to remember that you're no longer getting the same amount of pixels. You're no longer getting your 6,000 by 4,000. You're now getting 4,000 by 2666 or whatever it is. I hope all of that made sense. Basically, just go for it. If all you can afford or whatever is an APS-C lens, or that's just the one that looks like it's going to make the most sense for you, just remember that when you buy the 18-105 and put it on a full frame camera, you're not getting 18 to 105. You're getting 27 to 147. No, 157.50. Yeah, that's it. The math. Jeez. Gerald's in the building. Says, digging the set, looks great. Great stream quality too. Thank you, sir. I just flipped my my whole office here so that I could have a table to put these on, because my normal streaming setup doesn't include me needing to show a lot of things. So I appreciate it. You've become the stream master, so someone to look up to. All right, let's talk about the full frame lenses here. You guys can keep asking questions. I am going to do like once I get through everything, I'll kind of like try and pay more attention to your questions in the chat there. I keep going blank every once in a while. It's because I didn't have enough coffee today. That's really what's happening. Okay, you guys. So let's get into the full frame lenses. Let's start first with what I'm shooting on. Okay, so currently my stream is running off of my A7 III, and I'm shooting it with what's probably my new favorite lens, the Sony 35mm f1.8. Absolutely love that lens. I really always wondered what the heck was going on with everybody talking about 35mm. And then I finally shot with it, and now I get it. It's such a cool focal length. I don't know what it is about it, but it's just wide enough to make it interesting. Like, you know how people say that like 50mm is kind of what approximately the way that we see the world as far as like compression and that kind of thing. 35mm is just enough wider than that to make the view kind of interesting. But it's not so wide that things look unnatural, if that makes any sense. And so shooting things like street photography or I don't know, just anything really, man. I've shot like everything on this 35 now, and I love doing these kind of sit down and chat kind of talking head videos with it too, and all my A-roll for my videos, because it's just got this cool look to it without being too wide and without chopping everything off. Because if I was to, let's say, use like my 55 or something in here, first of all, it's too zoomed in. I couldn't do it in this tiny room. But second of all, you start to get so much compression that you can't show a lot of background. So yeah, absolutely loving the 35 here. Highly recommended. There's something about the colors of it too. I noticed earlier I was shooting with the Tamron 17-28, and I switched over to the 35 instead. I decided I wanted to go that way, and I actually had to change my color balance by quite a bit because it's just got such different colors. Same light setup and everything, and I had to change my color, my white balance, just to make it work. And again, it looks so fantastic. It's such a nice sharp lens too. Yeah, Gerald says, yeah, 35 is the best. Once you use it for a while too, it's how you see the world when you walk around. Every other lens will seem wrong when brought up to that eye. Yeah, it really does get that way. It's like you start to imagine what that looks like, and it's a realistic thing to imagine too. Like if you tried to walk around and see the world like as if you were looking through a 16mm or something like that, like you can't, because 16 almost has like this like dream-like kind of wide perspective. It's kind of crazy. So yeah, anyway, that's the 35 on the A7 III that you guys are looking at right now. This is my new shelving unit. Normally all my lenses sit up on this shelf in kind of in a row back there, but today obviously I needed to display these beauties. And since I got into it a little bit, the other lens that I have that also has 35 in the name is the Sony Zeiss 16-35, and I actually bought this before I went full frame. I had picked up the A6400, and I had been primarily using the 18-105 when I was using the 6400, because it has optical steady shot in it. So it's got the stabilization built into it. And if I was vlogging or if I wanted to do any handheld work, I like having that little bit of extra stabilization. I picked up the 16-35 because it was going to be a little bit wider and it also has stabilization in it. I thought it might be a good match for the A6400. I was right, but I will admit that I missed having the range when I was doing that kind of vlogging, running and gunning, that kind of stuff with the 18-105. The 16-35 just didn't quite give me that same range, that same kind of flexibility that the 18-105 did. Now, very shortly after, I then picked up the A7 III, and the 16-35 was clutch because I super fell in love with shooting super wide. Again, I had shot APS-C for a long time there, so going full frame, all of a sudden, the world was opened to me to being able to shoot even wider. I never caved and got the 10-18 when I was shooting exclusively APS-C because I just didn't think I needed it. And then I got a 16-35 on my full frame, and of course I started shooting wide all the time, and it just is really handy, especially like I own a recording studio and it's a smaller room, or I shoot in a room like this and it's a smaller room. So being able to shoot wide is definitely handy. Tall TV says, is that popping the music? What's popping the music? I'm not sure. Jen O'Hogan's in here. And we got lots of people joining. Welcome everybody. If you're just getting here, we're talking about lenses today. I'm taking you guys through all the lenses that I currently own. And I'm going to give you guys a chance to ask some questions and stuff afterwards. Yeah. All right. Anyway, so we've gone through the 35 that's currently on the camera. We got the Sony Zeiss 16-35, and then we're gonna talk about the Duo here. These are the guys that I would say I probably use the most on my full frame system, and that is the Tamron 17-28 f2.8 and the Tamron 28-75 f2.8. These guys are fantastic value lenses. And I don't mean to like make them sound like they're cheap lenses or anything like that. Like they still cost a little bit of money, but for what you pay for these guys, the value is fantastic. I've been really impressed. I actually did a review of the 28-75. I bought this when I was still shooting APS-C, thinking that it might be a good kind of mid-range zoom for my APS-C system. And what I found is that when I put it on the APS-C camera, first of all, it was very zoomed in, which I was expecting because obviously you're going to get your 1.5 times crop. But also, it just wasn't that much better than my 18-105. It was like a little bit better maybe, but it was like anytime that you put a full frame lens on an APS-C camera, they're not designed for that. So I shouldn't say anytime. I'm sure that some are better than others, but a lot of the time when you put a full frame lens on an APS-C camera, you're going to lose something that you would have got if you were using the entire image circle, because you're just cropping into the center of the image circle, and there's resolving power. And I think that's what it's called, resolving power. And Gerald might need to check me on that one. But what I found was that it just wasn't blowing me away like I was expecting it to. People were talking about it like it was this amazing lens, and I just couldn't see it on my APS-C. Now, when I got full frame again, I bought it again, and now I'm really happy with it. So, I mean, I had to buy it twice. You know, sometimes you just got to do that. You got to buy it and then return it to Amazon. Thank goodness for Amazon Prime 30-day returns. And then you just got to buy it again once you get the proper camera system. It doesn't get used on my APS-C system much, but on the full frame, it's absolutely fantastic. I really like it, and the f2.8 is really nice to have, as opposed to something in the same range. Like the kit lens is like a 24-70, I believe, f3.6 to 4.5 or something like that. But so having the f2.8 throughout the range is really nice. It's better for your low light situation. It's got better shallow depth of field if you want that. Just a great all-around lens. And then of course the 17 to 28. Now I do have like a bit of a love-hate relationship with the 17 to 28. The 28 to 75, I don't mind the range of it. Like, you know, your typical range for a lens like that would be 24 to 70. So 28 to 75, it's pretty close. It's great for what it does. Now the 17 to 28, I think the closest comparison would be something like a 16 to 35, the Sony 16 to 35 f2.8 G Master, and that's where the 17 and the 28 do actually kind of bug me. I find that it's not as useful as a range like 16 to 35. Obviously, like 16 to 35 is wider on both ends, but it's really that difference between 28 and 35. I often find myself cranking it to the 28 and just wanting just a little bit more. I mean, I already talked about how I love 35 now, so maybe that's why I just want to get to that 35. So these guys here, they fight a lot because I like the range of this much better, but I love having the f2.8 of this lens. So that's a tough one. So I've got the Sony Zeiss 16 to 35. Again, I love the range on that. But the 17 to 28, I love the f2.8 of it. Also, this is kind of cool. It's like internal zooming. You can see it. I don't know if I can show you guys this. Let me see. Let me see if I can block my face. So I don't know if you can see that, but it zooms inside. So the element is actually moving inside, which is kind of cool. It means that the front of the lens doesn't extend, but you can still see like where it's moving. The 17 or the 28 to 75 isn't like that. It just extends the barrel like you would expect a typical 24 to 70 to do. I remember when this first came out, and I believe that Signe Diongzen made a video about that, and he was worried about that. I think he was worried about maybe things getting in underneath it or something, but I haven't had any problems. Or if there are things in there, they're gone. They're lost in the ether. And again, that the 17 to 28, like keeping this tech just mentioned, it's super crispy. It's beautiful images. I do notice that the Tamrons have like a specific color to them. So when I go from the Tamrons, again, like I said earlier, I switched from the 17 to 28 and I switched over to the Sony 35 f1.8, and the color changed enough that I needed to re-white balance. So it is what it is. It doesn't bug me that much. You just got to kind of keep an eye on your white balance and stuff. All right, moving on. This is the Viltrox 85mm f1.8, and I haven't talked about this on my channel a whole lot. I did briefly mention it in one video about taking self-portraits. Some of the self-portraits, or actually all of the portraits that I took in that video were with the 85. Look at this front element, it's crazy. Let me see if I can get the focus again here. Look at that thing. Oh boy. If nothing else, it looks really fancy. I thought it was important to have an 85 in my kit. It's kind of like a standard portrait lens. And Viltrox reached out to me and wanted me to check this out. So I took a look at it and then featured it in that video. I didn't do a full review on it. I honestly don't reach to grab it that often. I don't know what it is about the 85mm focal range, but I haven't fallen for it yet. The focus on this one particularly is a little rough. It's not quick like a lot of the other lenses are, and it doesn't always nail it kind of thing. So, but again, just so that it's also said, I don't think I've really put this through its paces as far as like fully testing it out and figuring out when it's quick and when it misses and that kind of stuff. So maybe at some point I'll still have to do a full review for this one, but I don't find myself grabbing that a lot. It does sit on the shelf quite a bit. Now, speaking of portrait lenses, the one that I do grab for my portraits is this Sony Zeiss 55mm f1.8. I specifically bought this one because when I was at Sony Camera Camp last year, the guys at the desk, so you're at Camera Camp, you're in Montana, you're at this dude ranch, you're at this camp basically, and there's a room, and you can go in there and you can just borrow whatever you want. They've got like every Sony lens, every Sony camera you could ever possibly want, and you just can borrow it. And they sign it out to you for a day or whatever, and you can go try it. And there are all these camera reviewers and stuff like that. And the guys at the desk, the guys from Sony, who were, or maybe they were from B&H, I can't remember. Either or, they were there to try and kind of help you and guide you what you might want, what you might need, that kind of thing. And they kept talking about this 55mm f1.8. And the funny thing is that while I was there, I didn't get a chance to use it. I didn't actually get to play with it. But when I got home, the first thing I did was pick this up, and I absolutely love it for my portraits. Now, it is not a cheap lens, especially if you're going to be comparing it to like a lot of 50mm lenses and stuff like that. It is definitely a lot more expensive, but it's also just a fantastic lens. It's super sharp, and it's got a character to it that I think is what people really love about it. It's not like a perfect kind of looking lens. Like it's not fully kind of neutral. It does have a bit of a look to it, which is something that I absolutely love about it for shooting portraits. It's got a cool character to it. So, absolutely fantastic lens. Sony Zeiss f1.8 55mm. And I've got one more lens that we haven't talked about because it's been hanging out up here. This is another one. I bought this at the same time as I picked up the 55mm. This is the Sony 70-200 f4G lens, because I didn't really have anything for full frame that could be kind of a telephoto zoom lens. With APS-C, I always got away with the 18-105 because at the 105 end, again, you're looking at 157.50 millimeters full frame equivalent. So it's pretty decent as far as being able to zoom in. But for a full frame, having the 70-200 is clutch. I did get the f4 version, which I'm glad that I did. It's still a super sharp lens. It still looks fantastic. It's got internal zooming. So again, like the, I don't know if I can show you guys this here. So it's going to look kind of similar to what I showed you with the Tamron. You can see the elements moving inside. Now, the difference between this one and the Tamron is that with this one, there is a front element after, so it's not, you can't touch the moving parts kind of thing. And the funny thing about me getting this for my full frame kit is that I find I actually use it almost more on my APS-C cameras. Because when I'm looking for the 70-200, or when I'm looking for something that's like a super telephoto kind of thing, I find that 70, what would 70 be? 115, maybe? 105 to 300 millimeter equivalent when I slap the 1.5 times crop of APS-C on it. And all of a sudden I've got like a really zoomed in lens, so I can get those really zoomed in shots if I'm trying to shoot wildlife or something along those lines, which is super. You guys are laughing at my math. Stop that. I'm trying really hard. yeah, so I end up using it on my A6600 and my A6400 a lot because I get extra range out of it, and that's kind of one of the kind of unspoken advantages of APS-C is that if you've got lenses that you can put on it that were designed for full frame, you get extra reach out of them that way without losing megapixels. So if I was to do the same crop on my full frame camera, I would lose half the megapixels basically. Whereas this one, like, I'm still shooting a 24 megapixel, but I still get that 105 to 300, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, so that's my full frame kit. Like I said, we've got the 35 that I'm shooting on now. I got the 16 to 35 f4. I got the Tamron Duo, so 17 to 28, 28 to 75. I got my Viltrox 85 that doesn't get used a whole lot. My Sony Zeiss 55 that I absolutely love. Also doesn't get used a lot because I don't shoot a lot of portraits, but it is what it is. And then I got my 70 to 200, which we'll throw back up on the couch. We'll throw back up on the shelf here. Now, the only other ones that I haven't mentioned yet are, I've got, this is my Pentax f1.4 50 millimeter vintage lens for my film camera, which is right behind my head there. But I do have an adapter. I've got two adapters actually. This one is just a plain adapter with no glass in it that will put it on my full frame, so it'll put it on my A7 III. And this thing, this 50 millimeter, has the craziest, weirdest bokeh. It's awesome. I love shooting with this thing. It's a lot of fun because it just like it looks so weird. It's really odd. Full manual focus, no autofocus or anything like that. Very cool lens. And then the other one is a 28 millimeter. I'm drawing a blank here. It's an f2.8, yeah, 28 millimeter f2.8 Pentax lens, and it's a very cool lens as well. I really like that 50 millimeter though. I don't use the 28 a whole lot. It kind of ends up being a decoration on my shelf with my my Pentax that I think I bought one roll of film for it, and I'm halfway through it, so I got to finish that roll. Oh, and I do have another adapter as well that actually has glass in it. It's a speed booster so that I can use them at the same, what looks like the same focal length on my APS-C, or very similar focal length, as well as the same shallow depth of field and stuff like that. So that's kind of cool. Yes. Okay. It's time for coffee. I deserve coffee after all that rambling. Okay, and now I can see the chat. I can try and answer your guys' questions. Do you guys have any questions about my lens kit or your lenses or anything that you think I can answer about lenses? The chat is moving fast, so if you want to make sure that your question pops to the top, you can leave a super chat. In fact, I think I saw one earlier and I might have missed it. Tall TV left $5. Thank you for the coffee. $5 worth of coffee is a lot of coffee. And they asked, what percentage of your channel is done with a B cam? Might return to the A6600 for Mavic Air 2. Oh, I see. Might return the A6600 for the Mavic Air 2. I have only full frame lenses, 24-1.4, 85-1.4, 16-35 f2.8, 24-70. Dang, you got crazy lenses. Those are like, that's like the ultimate lineup of Sony professional glass. How much of my channel is done on the B cam? For the actual, for my actual YouTube videos, I would say probably 20% of my channel is shot with either an A6600 or an A6400, but probably 98% of my Instagram stories are shot with the A6600, and any other little quick things that I need to film. Any vlogging that I do is all A6600. APS-C has its advantages. The weight is a huge thing for me. Like it might seem minimal, but between the A6600 and the A7 III, if I just want to like grab something quick, I'll grab the A6600 with the 16mm on it 10 times out of 10 over the A7 III if I just need it done like quickly. So yeah, quite a bit is done with my 6600, which I guess you would consider my B camera. Let me just try and find where I was in the chat there. We got 81 people in here tonight. This is a big live stream. Welcome. Thank you guys for hanging out with me and chilling while I blathered through explaining my entire setup. Let me just see if I am missing your question or your comment in the chat. There is the super chat option. Again, no pressure. But if you do want to buy me some coffee, you can always do that. Or if you just want to donate, if you want to support the channel, you can throw a super chat in there. Yeah, I appreciate that. It all goes towards coffee budget. All right, what do we got? Jose says, hey Dunna, what do you think about the Sony 18-105 for the A6400? So I talked about that one. That's this guy here. Absolutely fantastic pairing with the A6400. If you saw on my channel, what did I call it? It was called like West Coast Vlog or something along those lines. I shot it last summer. My wife and I went out to the West Coast, and that whole thing pretty much was shot with the A6400 and the 18-105. A lot of it was shot using a gimbal, even the vlogging parts. I got my arm reel jacked after that because I was holding a gimbal with like a big heavy setup and stuff on it. So, but A6400 and the 18-105 is a fantastic pairing. It almost is all you need. If you want to buy some primes and stuff to get like specific situations, great. But if you just like want an all-arounder kind of thing, that's a fantastic setup. Especially because the 18-105 has OSS in it, so you don't necessarily need to have the IBIS in the body like we have in the 6600 or 6500. So definitely a good combo in my opinion. All right. Trying to find some questions in here. Do you think the 35mm f1.8 Sony is worth it? Hands down. Well, I shouldn't say hands down. Lately, it's been my favorite lens, so I definitely think it's worth it. And in case anyone has the questions, I definitely bought that one flat out. I think all these lenses, I don't think anyone gave me, oh no, the Viltrox sent to me. Other than that, all the lenses I bought with my own money, so. But yeah, the 35mm, absolutely love it. Get a lot of use out of it. It's such a useful focal length, and it's just so cool looking. I just love the way that it looks. That was from Nuno Miguel Caetano Pais. I don't know if I said that right. Hey guys, there's 85 of you in here, and we've only got 45 likes on this video so far. So if you haven't hit the like button, and you've been having fun, maybe I've been giving you some information that you like. Maybe you just like looking at my cool backdrop. Go hit that like button. I just got a dislike when I asked for likes. I also got 10 likes, but jeez, someone's angry. Someone doesn't like looking at my backdrop. How about the Sigma 35mm for A6500? So what would you get there? 35. Jeez. I don't even know what that, I can't do the math in my brain. Somewhere around 50mm. I think that would be cool. Again, like I mentioned earlier, anytime that you're going to put a full frame lens onto an APS-C body, you might see a reduction of what you might expect from a full frame lens, like full frame performance. Part of that is just because you're going to get better quality out of a full frame sensor because there are bigger pixels, or photo sites or whatever you want to call them. That's going to give you a sharper quality image and better low light performance and that kind of stuff, better dynamic range. but also because the actual image circle, you're cropping into the center of it, and depending on how the lens was made, it's not doing the same kind of focusing of the light. That's why APS-C lenses work best on APS-C cameras. That being said, if it's a fantastic lens with great character, that character is still going to carry over onto your APS-C camera. Just remember, you got to apply a 1.5 times crop. You have to apply the same 1.5 times factor to your aperture as far as shallow depth of field and that kind of stuff. So yeah, you just want to do your math. Basically, we've been doing a lot of math on this channel. Hey, if you guys see this light back here, if it goes out in the middle of the thing, I want you guys to put light bulbs in the chat, because I probably won't notice. So, all right. Born Sinner says, "Hey Dunna, my comment was pushed way back. I'm switching to a crop sensor, from a crop sensor to a Sony a7 II. I'm not sure if I should go with the kit lens or go right away with picking up the 51.8. I typically suggest to people to get a zoom lens first. Now, if that means the kit lens, then that's okay. But I would probably suggest getting a zoom lens first, so you have something with some versatility to it. The kit lens isn't great. If you can afford to go get just the body and maybe the 28 to 75 Tamron lens, I would definitely go that way if you can. But it's going to be a little bit more money. It all comes down to budget as well. I know that I just upsold you a whole bunch, but if you can go that way, I do highly suggest it. The 50 millimeter full frame lens, I think, is a great lens. A lot of people really love it, but being stuck at 50 millimeters, just especially if you're learning, like I don't know what your situation is, but especially if you're learning, like I find being stuck at one focal range is too limiting. Some people swear by it. They say that all people who are just starting out should get prime lenses, but I don't know. I think that a zoom lens is a better way to learn, in my opinion. All right, seeing what's in the chat. Can you guys hear the music? Is that still playing? Oh man, I am way behind on the chat. We got a super chat from George, $5. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you picking up some coffee for me. Oh man, it is 7 p.m. Drinking some coffee. I love it. Yes to music. Okay, good. Those are my beats you guys are listening to. I'm pretty proud of those. Thank you very much. All right, George says, looking for an 85 millimeter for 60 Mark II. What would you recommend? Ooh, I'm going to be completely honest here. I don't know the Canon lineup very well. However, I do know that Canon has a very famous 85 millimeter f1.8. That I would probably look into. I think they have an f1.2, an 85 f1.2 as well, if you want to get really crazy with it. But I think even their 85 f1.8, does Peter McKinnon have a whole video about that lens? It's like the B-roll master or something like that. He might have that. But he certainly pumped it up. I mean, maybe that was the f1.2. Maybe he's fancy like that, but definitely look into, I think, just like their 85 f1.8. From what I've seen is fantastic. Again, with the disclaimer that like I don't know the Canon lens lineup very well, and obviously they're going through a big transformation right now that they've switched over to the R mount or whatever. Hopefully that kind of answers your question. I don't want to be like, get this one, because again, I just don't know Canon that well. I've been Sony for a long time now. Back in my day, all the lenses fit on the same. No, they didn't. I'm kidding. Aaron says, I use the Sigma 35 on his A6500. Looks great. Amazing autofocus with the MC11. Oh, I think that's Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. That's cool. Is that the is that a Canon mount? It's 35 millimeter. Trying to find some questions in the chat. Again, if you guys want your questions to pop up in front of my face, so that I'm not looking through like this and dead air in the live stream, there's always the super chat option. They pop up with color for me. Again, no pressure, but if you do want to support and buy me some coffee, you can bribe me. What's the best 85 millimeter for photo and video? I mean, again, kind of sticking with Sony stuff. I did try the 85 millimeter. I think it's an f1.2 when I was at Camera Camp. I really should have wrote down all the different lenses that I used while I was there. But yeah, 85 millimeter. I believe it was an f1.2, and it was it was fantastic. It was really nice. I shot some portraits on it, and it was really cool. I think the G Master, whatever the 85 millimeter G Master. I can't remember if it's an f1.4 or an f1.2, but it was really nice. The color on it, the sharpness, it's just so fantastic, and both for photo and video. Super nice. What's a good portrait lens for beginners? Have the A60-100, and they have 18-105 and the 10-18. Look into the APS-C 50mm f1.8 to start out with, or this guy. This is the Sigma 56mm. It's probably my favorite portrait lens for APS-C. It's an 85mm full frame equivalent, and it is sharp as friggin' Ginsu knife. So definitely look at that. This one's going to be significantly more expensive than the APS-C 50mm f1.8 from Sony, but that's also a fantastic lens if you're looking for something cheap and you want to try and kind of get into it. Again, you mentioned for beginners, so when I hear for beginners, I usually think you're looking for something relatively inexpensive. But if you do want to look into the 56mm, I believe there's a link in the description for the 56 if you want to check it out. I don't know what the price is at right now, but definitely worth it if you are going to go for it. I can't hear the music, so if I'm singing over top of it, I'm sorry. Farts Photography is in the house. Hey man, how you doing? All right. Tall says, I love this. Thank you for doing this. No problem. If you guys do have questions, drop them in the chat. I hope that you guys are having fun. Okay, I'm scrolling down to the bottom so that I can catch up with everything that's going on. Kara Marin, who was our winner. I don't know if you guys knew this, but on Instagram and Twitter, and I think even Facebook, I posted that if you guys shared the video that I put out this past Monday, if you guys shared that, I gave a little description of what you needed to do. I was going to make a custom Lightroom preset for one person, and Kara Marin was the one who won that. And I'm going to start kind of doing that every week, basically. If you guys find where I say, like, here's what you got to do and you have the chance to win kind of thing, I'm going to start making you guys custom presets. So I made a preset just for her. She's the only one who gets it. That was a lot of fun. But she gave a $5 super chat, so thank you so much for picking me up some coffee. Kara says, I want to get a new lens. What's your go-to for a newbie photographer? Primarily shoot landscape, but sometimes portraits. I have the A6000. I want to get a new lens. What's your go-to for a newbie photographer? I mean, newbie as in, like, if you only had one lens, the 18-105 would be my go-to. That would be definitely the one that I would say, but mostly because it kind of covers everything. So you can shoot your landscapes at 18, you can shoot your portraits at like 85 or whatever you want. But because I know that you're already shooting photos, you probably already have some lenses. So maybe drop what lenses you already have, and let me see if I can kind of complete your kit for you. Rather than suggesting something. But I mean, also the 18-105 is a fantastic choice if you want kind of an all-around lens like that. Sunil says, if you had one lens to shoot with forever, what would it be and why? Dang. It would be a 12 to 300 f1.8. It doesn't exist. Ugh, coffee. Probably something like a 28 to 75 if I really had to. The 28 to 75 f2.8, maybe the G Master version. Although the Tamron is nice and small, which is really nice, but so that, I guess that would be like my full frame choice, would be something like a 24 to 70 or a 28 to 75. Actually, oh man, this is the hardest question. I don't know. 16 to 35? Jeez. I don't know. And then APS-C wise for Sony, the 18 to 105 is always the lens that I say is like, if I could only have one lens for APS-C, it's that one. Let me see if Kara responded here. Kara says, I already have the Sigma 30mm and the Sony kit lens. Yeah, okay, then yeah, the 18 to 105 is probably the one I would go for you, based on the specific stipulations that you gave. You like to shoot landscapes, but you also want to shoot some portraits, so you need something that's versatile. If you said like, I'm gonna buy two lenses, then, and maybe you like prime lenses, then the 16mm is fantastic for your landscapes. The 56mm would be great for your portraits, but if you're looking for one lens that can kind of do it all, the 18 to 105, again, the trade-off is the f4. The trade-off is the f4, but the nice thing about that is that at 18mm, when you're shooting your landscapes, chances are you're probably shooting at like f8 or something to make sure everything's in focus anyway, maybe even f11. And then at 105, f4, if you're like zoomed in doing your portraits and stuff and you want shallow depth of field, when you're that far zoomed in, you kind of get that blurry background even at f4. I've shot some portraits on that I absolutely love. No problem whatsoever. So definitely the Sony 18 to 105 f4 if you're looking for another lens to add to your kit. Okay, what else do I got in the chat here? I saw another super chat. Jean, it's either Jean or Jean. Just gave a super chat. Just gave $5. Thanks so much. Oh, there's a question down there. What's the best cheap macro lens? Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for the super chat. Thanks for picking up some coffee for me. I really appreciate that. And then you said, what is the best cheap macro lens? I don't know that there are a lot of super cheap ones. The Sony makes a 30mm macro lens that was pretty good. I owned it for a while, but I also had the Sigma 30mm, and it felt weird to have both of them, even though the one was a macro lens. But it's an f2.8. I believe it was an f2.8. It might have even been an f4 or an f3.5. Okay, I'm gonna keep talking, and I'm also gonna look for this. So Sony makes a 30mm macro lens, and it was cool. I think for macro, I would prefer to have something a little bit more telephoto, something like the 90mm macro, which I know is the one that Gerald absolutely loves, not only for macro stuff, but also to shoot portraits on. So you might want to go that way, but it is significantly more expensive than the 30mm. So yeah, the 30mm macro is an f3.5, and it's $350 Canadian, which is like 270 or something like that US. So it's relatively cheap. So if you need to do macro shots and you're okay with it being a wider macro, I do believe it's an APS-C lens. So just be careful of that. Yeah, it's definitely an APS-C lens. So just be careful of that. If you're shooting on a A7 series or something like that, you're not actually going to be getting your full frame. But yeah, that was kind of cool. I sold it, of course, because like I said, I already had a 30mm and it felt weird to have two. So what else do we got here? Scott McKeegan's in the house. Newbie question, but do you add the crop factor to APS-C lenses? Yes, you do. So the for example, the 16mm f1.4, oh, you guys can't see that far out of the frame. This guy here, this is the Sigma 16mm f1.4. I would say that this is a 24mm full frame equivalent. And the reason that it's still called a 16mm is it's because it's something physically inside the lens that's 16mm apart, and that doesn't change whether it's a full frame lens or an APS-C lens or anything. It's still 16mm apart. The thing that changes is how much of the frame you're kind of seeing. So if the image circle is this big on a crop sensor, you're only seeing the small middle section of it kind of thing. So no matter if it's a full frame lens or an APS-C lens, it's still that same distance apart, if that made sense. So a 16mm full frame lens, that part of it would still be 16mm apart, if that makes sense, kind of thing. The difference between APS-C lenses and full frame lenses, APS-C lenses bend the light in closer so that it basically focuses the light onto a smaller image circle, because otherwise it's just light around the sensor. So when I put a full frame lens on my APS-C camera, there's a bunch of light that's not hitting the sensor because it's blasting around that sensor size. There are lots of great videos on this on the internet, and I'm doing a terrible job trying to come up with an off-the-cuff explanation for it, but hopefully that helps. All right, trying to get caught in the chat here. Thanks again to everyone who's given me a super chat, buying me some coffee. This is Coffee Break with Dunna Did It. Megan's helping out. Yeah, I'm missing some questions. I apologize if I'm missing your guys' questions here. And again, if you don't have, I don't want to pressure anyone into the super chat. They just pop up easier. But if that doesn't work for you, don't do it. Just keep asking your question. Eventually, hopefully, I'll catch it. The chat's moving pretty quick, so I'll do my best to get as many questions as I can. Ibn Had Skill says, is it true as you become a better photographer, you take fewer shoots? I think you mean fewer shots, I assume. I don't know. I think everybody's a little bit different. I think that as you get more of a vision for what you want, you probably take fewer shots. I find that in different situations, I take different amounts of shots. So in certain situations where maybe I don't feel as comfortable or something like that, I'll shoot a lot. It's kind of a spray and pray, if you will. You're basically just shooting everything and then you'll figure it out later. A lot of that might come down to how much time you have. If you have lots of time to set up and take shots and check them out and make your set better and that kind of stuff, then it is what it is. Like you've got that time to take it. And if you don't, then you're just going to be moving fast and you're going to want to take more shots. But yeah, I mean, I guess maybe a little bit, like as you become more comfortable with it, you might not need to take those shots where you don't, or where you're like just trying to figure it out kind of thing. You'll go in with a clear vision and you might take less shots. I don't think it works the other way. I don't think that taking less shots makes you a better photographer. Yeah, I think I said that the way I wanted to. So if you're a better photographer, you might take less shots depending on the style of shooting that you like to do and the situation that you're in, but taking less shots doesn't necessarily mean you're a better photographer. Yeah. All right, what else do we got? Can I do weekly photography challenges for my audience? I've definitely thought about something like that. The big problem with that is that it's a lot to keep on top of, as far as like just making sure that I'm going through all the submissions and that kind of stuff. I mean, unless you just mean like giving suggestions of like, go try and shoot this week, and tag me, and that kind of thing. That might be kind of a cool idea, is just to like give you guys suggestions of what you could be shooting on any given week, that kind of thing. So that's a great idea. Thanks for letting me know. I'll consider it. It's something that like I would need to make sure that I had time for and that kind of stuff. So, City Lights Photography says, if you want really great photography challenges, check out Ted Forbes' The Art of Photography. Seriously, that's great advice. All right. All right. A lot of people talking about the super chats. Okay, I want to clear something up. You don't have to give me any money. Please, if you don't want to give me any money, you don't have to give me money. I try and make the joke about it like being, coffee fund, that kind of thing. You don't have to. Just ask your questions. I'm answering lots of questions here without super chats. It's just kind of a thing where you just, if you want it to get noticed, that's a way to do it. If not, just keep asking. If I missed your question in the chat, just ask it again. That's all good. Speaking of finding questions in the chat, let's find here. Pedro says, have you a bucket shot? What lens would you use? Ooh, what's my bucket shot? I don't even know. I don't think I have like a dream location. Like I've shot Peyto, I've shot Moraine. I live not too far from Banff, which is where Peter's bucket shot was taken, and I've shot those things. So, and they're fantastic locations. I love shooting on the West Coast. My wife and I love to go out to the West Coast, and I love shooting out there. But yeah, I don't know what my bucket shot would be. What would your bucket shot be, Pedro? And which lens would I use? I mean, if it was a landscape shot, like if I was going to shoot something like what Peter did when he shot the bucket shot, I'd probably use my 16-35 f4 because it's a fantastic portrait lens, landscape lens. Yeah, I got to think about that one. I don't know what my bucket shot would be. Mr. Camera Junkie says, I need to start traveling to have a bucket shot. No, your bucket shot could be, I want to take a really fantastic photo of my cat. Maybe that'll be my bucket shot. I want to take a fantastic photo of my cat using animal face detect and my 55mm f1.8 lens. Kyle and Andrea gave me a super chat here. Sony 10-18, ever used it? Worth adding to the kit? I have used it, only for a short amount of time, and I wasn't a huge fan. But now let me put a little disclaimer on that. I wasn't used to shooting super wide, and I had trouble getting used to it at first. So when I tried the 10-18, I kind of didn't like how wide it was. And I didn't like the fact that it wasn't super versatile either. So 10-18, you're looking at equivalent of 15 to 27. So it's pretty close to what this 17 to 28 would be. And now I'm more used to this, and I find it really useful. So maybe if I went back and used the 10-18 again, that would be super handy. But I know people who absolutely swear by the 10-18. Becky and Chris is a perfect example. They shoot with the 10-18 on their A6400 a lot for their vlogging stuff. A lot of people really love that wide look. I find even when I use my 17 to 28, I find myself zooming in a bit, if nothing else, just to like 20 millimeters kind of thing, because I'm just not used to the super wide thing. I'm getting there though. I'm definitely getting more used to it. So it is what it is. As far as like whether the lens is like good quality and stuff like that, like I think it does pretty decent. As far as I could tell, I thought it was a similar kind of look to the 18 to 105. I think those are like a good pair kind of thing, the 10 to 18 and the 18 to 105. I don't think it's the sharpest lens in the world. I don't think it has the most fantastic image quality, but I think it does the job. And I think that it's really the only thing in the APS-C lens lineup that covers that range the way that it does. So it's definitely more like a utility lens, if I can say that kind of thing. What else do we got? Brandon says it's 2 a.m. in the UK. I'm knackered, but I'm here. Thanks for hanging out, Brandon. I appreciate all of you guys hanging out. We still got 66 people in the chat here. We're answering questions. If you guys are just joining, I talked about all my lenses, and now I'm just trying to answer as many questions about lenses that any questions that you guys might have. Butch says my bucket shot is a cheetah in the sunset. I missed it when I was in Africa this last time. Ooh, one of those like just missed it kind of things. Jeez, that's tough. I guess you'll just have to go back to Africa. The cheetah in the sunset. That would be cool. That's a cool bucket shot for sure. Butterlight says, thanks. What camera do you suggest for a beginner? I love to suggest the A6000 for some reason, and maybe I'm biased because that was kind of my beginner learning camera, but I still think it's a fantastic camera to learn on. And even the A6100 now, it has the flip screen, so if you're going to do any vlogging or anything like that, that's a great camera to start out with. It's not like it's not super expensive like the A6600 is or anything like that, but it still has like a lot of the bells and whistles. No IBIS. That's kind of like, I think, the differentiator for a lot of people. A6400 is great as well. The Canon M50 is another one that I like to suggest if people seem like maybe they'd be a better fit for Canon. That one I don't have any personal experience with, but I know a lot of people suggest it, and it comes with very high praise. But definitely the 6100 is probably a good bet right now, because it's more modern, so it's not going to be like outdated anytime soon. Excuse me. The 6000 is getting a little long in the tooth, but still a great camera. Brandon says, your channel helped me start my own channel. Well, thanks for saying that. I appreciate it. What else do we got? You got people yelling in the chat. Who's got their caps lock on? We got a super chat from Sakul for $2. Thank you so much. Nice cup of coffee right there. He says, they say, I've been using the Sony a6300 for almost 2 years with the Sigma 30mm f1.4, and I have 2 questions. Should I be thinking of an upgrade since it's an older camera, or buy a new lens, and if so, which? Only upgrade your camera if you don't like something about your camera. If everything about your camera is working for you and you're happy with the quality and everything, then don't get a new camera. You don't need to get a new camera every couple years. It's tempting. I do it, and I don't know that I always need to. I mean, I have a bit of more of an excuse because I run the channel, so getting the new gear makes sense because then I can talk about the new gear that everybody wants to hear about. But if you're happy with your quality and everything that's going on with your photography or videography or whatever you're doing, then I would go for some new lenses. Expand your lens kit. If all you've got is the 30mm, maybe look at something like the 18 to 105, so you have like an all-around lens, especially paired with the a6300. Then you've got like a nice wide range with optical steady shot on it. The Sigma 16mm, or the 56 if you like to shoot portraits, those kinds of things. That's, I mean, as you guys can tell by now, that's my go-to kit. I keep pointing to my lenses here. You guys can't see those. There, now you can see them. So that's my go-to APS-C kit. But yeah, again, and this advice goes to anyone. Like if you're if you're like, oh, I need to get the latest and greatest camera, it's like, first of all, ask yourself, are you unhappy with the camera you currently have? If you're unhappy with the camera you currently have, then definitely upgrade. If you're just itching to upgrade, then, I mean, sometimes that's okay too. If you got some money burning a hole in your pocket and you want the latest and greatest, that's great. But don't think that buying a new camera is just going to make you a better photographer or videographer right away. It's going to give you some more options, and that's about it, you know? So, yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. What else do we got? M Solid says, should I spend the money and get the 18-35 Sigma f1.8 and purchase the adapter, or just get to the 18-105 Sony? I need an all-around lens, but I don't know what to choose. So assuming that, I mean, if you said you're going to get the 18-105 potentially, you must be shooting Sony APS-C. I would go with that one. And that's coming from personal experience. I tried the 18-35 with an adapter. I have a video on it actually. And it is a absolutely fantastic lens, And, but I hate using adapters. And part of it is because you lose a lot of your autofocus capabilities. It was loud during video, like really loud, like click, 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 lots of clicking sounds, that kind of thing. Also, 18-35 isn't a huge range. So if you're looking for an all-around lens, that might not do it for you. Something like the 18-105 will actually get you into your telephoto range. So I would go that way personally, but a lot of people do swear by the 18-35. And again, it is a fantastic looking lens. It's really, really nice. It's definitely like nicer image quality than the 18-105, but it's not as versatile, and I don't find it as user-friendly because you have to use it with the adapter. Dun, dun. All right, let's try and find some more stuff in the chat here. Where am I? Where am I? Ryan Cow's in the building. Welcome. Ryan Cow's in the building. YouTuber, if you guys want to check him out. Ryan Cow's in the building. We got quite the crew in here right now. We got 76 people watching. Thank you guys so much for 76 people watching. Thank you guys so much for this live stream. This is a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for this live stream. This is a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for this live stream. This is a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for this live stream. This is a lot of right. Thank you guys so much. Just move this around. Sorry guys. Right. Just trying to organize here a little bit. Sorry guys. Right. And trying to organize questions in the chat. Sorry guys. Right. Abigail's exposure. What f-stop do you find yourself Abigail's exposure? F2.8 if I can. Abigail's exposure. Even f2.8 lenses that are like f1.4 or f1. Even f2.8. I do like to use f2.8 or just find sometimes f1.4 I do like to use f2.8 shallow or just find either like hard to get focused on what I want, or once I get focused, either that thing moves at all, like what I want, or you don't always either that thing moves at all, like you want, you don't always either that thing moves at all, like you want, you don't always either that thing moves at all, like what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Uh-oh. We got an audio problem. Can you guys hear it now? Is it going crazy again? There we go. That should take care of it. You guys. Okay, so here's what's going on. I moved over to another window for a second to check and make sure that everything was going okay, checking the chat, those kinds of things. And oh, I got to turn the music back on. I moved over to check and make sure everything was okay, and it started the live stream, which then started to play the live stream through where the music was playing through, and so then we got this nice loopy loop. Okay, I think we're good now. Let's shake it off, guys. Let's shake it off. Thanks so much for being through that. Okay, let's confirm, is the echo gone? If the echo is gone, everybody drop bananas in the chat. I'm stealing Gerald's thing here. I want to see some bananas in the chat. My wife's texting me, letting me know that it's all messed up. There we go. I'm seeing bananas in the chat. That means we're good. People are just saying the word banana. There we go. All right. That's a good way to refresh too. Now, if you guys have more questions, now you can ask them, because I'm caught up on the chat because of all the bananas now. How's your guys' coffee doing? Has anyone got up for a refill during this? Is anyone else drinking coffee? Am I alone? John says, do you think there's any chance Sigma would make a 100 to 400 millimeter to compete with the G Master? Sigma has just started getting into E-mount, full frame E-mount zoom lenses, so I could see that happening. I mean, I think their full frame E-mount stuff is doing well as far as sales and stuff, so yeah. I don't have any insider information if that's what you're looking for, though. Now or Never says, if you do not have the YouTube channel or recording studio, what would you do? That's a tough question, man. You just took away like my two things. You know, if people were like, if you didn't have the recording studio, what would you do? And I started a YouTube channel. But now you take away that one. I don't know. Something artistic, probably. Something creative. That's just who I am. I'm not like a super handy person, but it is what it is. I think Brian just left me a super chat that just said, a banana. Thanks, Brian. I love it. B-Roll Apprentice says Insta360. Speaking of lenses, I got this in the mail yesterday. The 1-inch wide angle mod for the Insta360 1R. I'm very excited to try and use that. The Insta360 1R is very cool. The Insta360 is also very cool. I'm excited to try and use the 1R a little bit more and get some kind of a review going for it. But I'm not a huge fan of like using 360 footage all the time, but it's very cool as like a utility for certain shots and stuff. Ricardo's drinking water. Amrita's about to have dinner. All right, we got some Pepsi in the chat. What else do we got? Have I tried the 85mm Viltrox? You mean this one? I have tried it. I don't use it very often. I didn't hate it, but I don't know. I didn't fall in love with it either. I think it's like kind of like it's a situation where I think you kind of get what you pay for a little bit. I would love to compare it to something like the Sony 85-1.8 or something like that. Can I turn the chat bubble noise quieter? I don't think I have control over that. I really don't know. I'm not hearing any chat bubbles, so I apologize. I'm already getting behind this chat. Where do you get your music from this live stream? I made all the music in this live stream, and I've got important secrets coming about the music that you're hearing in this live stream that I shall not speak of at this moment, but I will talk about soon. All right, please suggest Tamron 20mm or Samyang 18. I would go Tamron over Samyang as far as just like the brand goes. I've tried a couple of Samyang things and wasn't a huge fan. So, have you always shot with Sony? Yes, I have. I've dabbled with some other stuff, a little bit of Canon, a little bit of Fuji. I have the Fuji X-T4 right now. I'm trying that out, just on loan from Fuji Canada. But yeah, I've shot Sony since I started shooting, basically. What else do we got? M Cruz Videography says, you are one of the best YouTubers. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. You guys are too kind. Now or Never says it's 3:33 a.m. Thanks, Dunna, for the amazing live stream. Good work. Gotta go to sleep. Yeah, get your beauty rest. Thanks for coming out. I appreciate it. B-Roll Apprentice says, did you get an Epidemic Sound contract? Like for the music? No, it's not going to go up on Epidemic. Well, I don't know yet. I mean, maybe at some point. Sigma 14 to 24 or Tamron 17 to 28 thoughts. Actually, I did a video on wide angle lenses. So I had the 16 to 35 G Master, the Sigma 14 to 24, the Tamron 17 to 28, and the Sony 16 to 35 f4. And unfortunately the Sigma, one of the problems with it is that it's got the bulbous front, so you can't put filters on the front, so you have to buy their filters that go on the back, or their like filter holder or whatever that goes on the back of the lens if you want to use filters. And I use filters a lot. Quality wise, it was great. It's a nice Sigma lens. I did have some issues with what I think, now having seen some other videos on some other Sigma glass, there was like this weird warping going on the side when it was auto-focusing. And I think what that is distortion compensation. And I do believe that they've made some kind of firmware update. Now, I think the firmware update was for the 24 to 70 that they just put out. But I assume that if they did that for that lens, they're probably also doing one for the 14 to 24 as well. Personally, I like the Tamron better. It just for my setup and stuff, it was just, it made more sense. Mr. Camera Junkie says, if it has a lens, I will shoot it. There you go. Don't got to get too picky. Best budget video lens. You got to give me more info than that. Like what are you shooting with it? What system are you on? All that kind of stuff. Brandon says, is the Sigma Art Series any good? Yes, the Sigma Art Series is very good. That's like their bread and butter, I believe. Definitely fantastic lenses. So the Sigma Trio that I have here is technically, it's in the Contemporary series, so it's technically lower than the Art series. The Art series is like a tier up from that kind of thing, and these are fantastic lenses. So like the Art series is great, from what I've used of it anyway. Sunil says, how do you get into Sony's camera camp? So it is open to the public for people to go to. I mean, I don't know if they're doing it again this year, especially with everything that's going on, but I know that they did have it open to the public to go for the weekend portion of it. But then they also did like a couple of days before that were for invites kind of thing. So it was for a lot of YouTubers and that kind of stuff to come and try out their new gear. They're just trying to raise awareness for the gear that they have and that kind of stuff. It wasn't even like, it wasn't all Sony shooters or anything like that. It was like just people that they thought might appreciate coming out and hanging out and trying out some gear and that kind of stuff. Butterlight says, do you sell your photographs or make movies? Tell us more about you. Is YouTube your main hustle or side hustle? I haven't like started selling prints or anything like that yet. And I don't make any like feature films or anything like that. Primarily, like what I do is YouTube and Instagram. That's kind of like video and photo, as well as my full-time job is I run a recording studio that's part of a music school and recording studio. I'm one of the owners over there. And so I also do the media work for that company as well. So I shoot all the photos for our music recitals and that kind of stuff. And I do all of our promotional material for all the videos and stuff that we do there. So YouTube is just kind of the side hustle. It's what I do. It started as just a hobby, and then it grew. It blossomed into something else. Yeah. Great question, by the way. We're getting into Q&A territory. Ricardo says hi from Panama. What's up, man? Thanks for swinging by. What else do we got? Thoughts on the 28-75 f2.8 from Tamron. So you must have missed it earlier. I was talking about this guy. This is the 28-75. I love this lens. It's great. I do find myself using probably the 17-28 a little bit more, but I do wish it was a 16-35 instead. The 28-75 is like a great all-arounder. Just for what I use, I find it doesn't get used a whole lot, but it's fantastic for when I do need it. And I think maybe that's just like because recently I've been obviously stuck at home a lot, and I just haven't needed that lens. But when I'm more out and about, I think it's a great lens. The range is fantastic. It's pretty much like a 24-70 kind of thing, but a little bit further on the long end, which is awesome. What else do we got? Would you recommend getting the 18-105 or the Sigma 16mm first? I know the 105 is versatile, but I keep hearing it's not as sharp. Plan on doing cinematic music videos, car montage, and films. So the things that you just suggested, you don't need to be super versatile for. That's the thing. So like if you're shooting things that are planned, and you can, like, if you're going to shoot a music video, you're going to plan the shots. And so you could shoot the whole thing on prime lenses if you wanted, because you're going to plan, like, this is a wide shot, I need a wide lens. This is a tight shot, so I'm going to need a tight lens, that kind of thing. Now, if you can only have one lens, then I would go with the more versatile one. And yeah, it's not as sharp as the 16mm, but it's done great for everything that I've ever used it for. So I do still suggest it if you can only get one lens, to get a more versatile lens. But if the alternative is to get a set of primes, maybe like the Sigma Trio, that would be great for things, again, that are like more planned like that. Brandon is a singer in a band. Look at that. We got a bunch of musicians in the chat. All right. What else do we got here? Helen says, which full frame Sony model is good to step up from APS-C to full frame? The A7 III is a monster. Like, it's such good value to go up to full frame. It shoots great video. It takes great photos. I would definitely go into the A7 III. I have a funny feeling like we're going to see it replaced not too long here, but yeah, I can't confirm or deny that because I don't have any Sony insider information. But I love my A7 III. I definitely recommend it as kind of a good all-around camera, full frame to step up from your APS-C cameras. Sunil asked about the music. I feel like I answered that already. The music that you're hearing currently in the live stream, I made, and you'll be hearing more about that later on. Jack says, love your stuff, man. I'm looking for a nice low light lens for shooting video on the A6300, but the options I can find don't have OSS. I've been there, man. I have been there. Do you have any advice for how to get around this? That's a tough one. Yeah, because like all the prime lenses with good wide apertures don't have OSS on them. They just don't make them. Your best bet is maybe something like the 50mm f1.8 does have OSS in it. I shot a music video for an artist named Conch all with like the entire music video on the A6000 and the 50mm f1.4, mostly because it has OSS in it, and because 50mm was a nice range to shoot. But yeah, that's probably the only one that I can think of that has OSS on it. Other than that, like, take a look at the, there is the 16 to 35 f4, but again, you're looking at f4. We got the 18 to 105 f4, again, f4, so you're not like great in low light. It's really tough to get around. You can look at gimbals as an option, or just do a lot of tripod shooting. That's probably your best way around it. Abraham says, what do you think about the new 20mm from Sony? Just got the A7 III and looking for some good primes. Hello from Austin, Texas. Hello! I haven't used it yet, but I want it real bad. I keep doing this thing. So I grab my 17 to 24 and I'm setting up my shot, whatever I'm doing. And I'll just, without looking, I'll start to dial in where I want the zoom range. And then afterwards, I'll look down and the marker is at 20mm. Hands down, every friggin' time. I don't know how it happens, but I find myself shooting at 20mm so much. And so that might be an indicator that I might need to get that 20mm and just save myself even having a zoom lens. I'm just kidding. I'll keep the zoom lens. But I do find myself shooting at 20mm a lot, so getting something like that Sony 20mm, I believe it's an f1.8, would be kind of cool, because then I get a little shallower depth of field and probably a little bit better image quality. Lots of people are saying great things about it, so I'm excited to try it out. Noah says hello. Hello, Noah. Welcome back, maybe? I know you were here before. Dean Jackson says, are you too invested in Sony glass to switch to the R5? I wouldn't say I'm too invested. No, I'm not like, I wouldn't say I'm like brand loyal or anything like that. I do see switching as a big pain in my butt. But I do like, I imagine switching would be a pain. And I don't think that the Canon lens system is fleshed out enough for me to make that switch. I would love to try it though. I gotta get a hold of Canon Canada and see if they'll lend me, even just like an EOS R and like a couple of lenses just to try out, because I really haven't had enough time with it. The only time I've had with it is like, inside camera stores, and I love the way that it feels in my hand. But obviously if you're standing in a camera store and you're like looking at a camera and a menu system you've never used before and all those kinds of things, like, it's confusing and you can't just pick it up and be like, okay, I like this or I don't like this. Like, I need some time with it. But if honestly, if it checks enough of my boxes, and I think that it will improve the problems that I have with Sony cameras, which there are some, I've got a video coming out about it actually, then I would consider switching. I'm not by any means brand loyal or anything like that, but I also do factor in the fact that switching is a pain. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. What are your thoughts on the Sony a7S III rumors? I don't even know what to think anymore. There are so many rumors and so much waiting. I don't even know that I would, I don't even know that I would buy an a7S III. Like, I don't know. It's probably a really expensive camera. Honestly, I would be more interested in an a7 IV. Fix the problems that the a7 III has and give me that camera with 10-bit internal and 4K 60. That's all I'm saying. Kara says, how are you liking Final Cut Pro? Thinking of using it. Try it. It's very cool so far. It's got its ups and downs like any software does. It's taken a little bit of time to learn. I don't find it super intuitive, but now that I've edited no, maybe three YouTube videos, and then a bunch of little stuff for Instagram and that kind of stuff on it. I am finding my way around it a little bit quicker now, to the point where like I know my way around it enough to know what I like and what I don't like, if that makes sense. So like, it's no longer just like, I don't know how to use this is garbage. It's now, I know how to use this and I prefer it this other way in this other program or whatever, you know? But overall, like the stability of it is just like, oh, it's so nice to like export things in the same amount of time that the video, like if it's a 10-minute video, it takes like approximately 10 minutes to export it. That's crazy coming from Premiere Pro, where it takes me, I don't know, it goes, if it's a 10-minute video, it probably takes me like 45 minutes to an hour to export it. It's nuts. Anyway, hopefully that answers your question. The 90-day trial right now is awesome. I definitely suggest trying it out. XT4 looks amazing. Should I sell my A6400 and go with the XT4? You're gonna have to try it out, I think, first. I don't want to make a snap judgment because I am testing the XT4 right now, but I'm not a big fan of the XT series layout of like their buttons and knobs and the ergonomics and that kind of stuff. As far as like what it's got going on for it, it is definitely an amazing camera as far as specs, and it's got great image quality and that kind of stuff. Like Sony APS-C versus Fuji APS-C, like Fuji is giving you a lot, and now that it has IBIS in it and that kind of stuff, like it's definitely a fantastic camera. But I don't know. I don't know that I like shooting with it as much as I like shooting with like my A6600 or even my A6400 for that matter. So it depends on what you like as far as like when you grab a camera, what inspires you to shoot more. So it's tough to know. Tough to know what to tell everyone when they ask that question. Steven, good morning from Singapore. You got to be just waking up. It's almost time for bed here for me. Oh man, I'm losing it. You can tell I'm getting tired. Hashtag idea funnel. Who saw the idea funnel video? Paul wants to know if I'm offering my own royalty-free music for YouTube videos. Maybe. All right, Brandon's going to bed. Thanks for coming out, dude. Why am I just hearing about this music stuff? Ever thought about videos on that or a second channel? If you check out Resonate Music School and Studio, I do have a channel over there. I don't put much on it. I've done a couple live streams over there, but we've moved over to Facebook. So every Monday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, I do a live stream of making music. Hey, somebody go hit the like button because we got 99 likes and I'd love to roll that over 100. Mike City Lights says, pick up a small rig cage with handles for handheld, ? I love small rig cages, but I mostly use them just to mount them because they have the Arca Swiss plates on the bottom. I don't use handles. So it's up to you though. Like it's whatever feels comfortable in your hand. All right, we got a super chat here. Holy, thank you so much. That is an incredibly generous super chat. That's going to get a lot of coffee. And Buffons, I'm pronouncing that terribly. I apologize for that. I have a Sony a6600 and I do interviews at night. Which lens can I use? 6600, go with the interviews. When you say you do interviews, are you in the shot as well? Is it two people in the shot? Or are you behind the camera and you're just interviewing one person? You know what? Actually, either way, I'm going to suggest the Sigma 16mm f1.4. The f1.4 is going to give you the fast lens, so you're going to be able to go in low light situations. Because you've got an A6600, you have IBIS in there, so you're going to have some stabilization. So it'll be okay handheld. It'll still look handheld, but if you're going handheld, it'll get rid of some of those shakes. Okay, so 2 people in it. So yeah, definitely the 16 millimeter f1.4. The catch there's going to be a catch there. If you're shooting 2 people, make sure that they're the same distance away from the camera, because what's going to happen is that the camera is going to choose one person to try and focus on. It's going to catch their face and it's going to try and focus on that one person. And if they're at different distances from the camera, especially if it's at night and you have to be at f1.4 to get the brightness up, or to get the light in the camera kind of thing, then your depth of field is very shallow. So if they're at different distances from the camera, you're going to have one slightly out of focus. So, and this is, I mean, it's going to be up to your camera person, or I guess yourself. If you're shooting the whole thing, you're just going to have to be careful of that. What I would really suggest is to make sure that you have some kind of a light source. I understand that that's not always an option, but if you can have some kind of a portable light source with you for wherever you're shooting these interviews, that's going to be super handy, because then you won't have to shoot at f1.4 all the time. You can shoot at something like f2.8, and you'll get rid of that shallow depth of field problem for not having both of your people in focus. I hope that answers your question. Thank you so much for the super kind super chat. Oh, and Butterlight just said it's $50 Mexican, which is only $2 US. I missed the Mexican part. That's funny. Anyway, I mean, still, thank you so much for the kind super chat and for the great question. Yeah, that's funny. I was just like, $50, wow. I love it. Thank you anyway. Seriously though, I appreciate anything. It all helps. It's all nice. And again, like I said before, no pressure to super chat. I think I'm doing pretty good at keeping up with the chat now, so you can just you can ask your questions. Paul's out of here. Butterlight wants to know if I'm in Canada. Yes, I am. I am in Edmonton. What do we got? Every recording, it's so crazy. I got you. Yeah, so you're in situations where you can't control that. Yeah, so I do suggest the 16 millimeter, and the A6600 has fantastic autofocus, so it should do a great job for you. What else do we got? We're coming up on 2 hours here, so I'm going to answer a couple more questions. Akbar says, which lens is perfect for shooting B-roll, 16 to 35 f2.8 or 50 millimeter f1.8? It really depends on what you like. So, for example, I mean, I know Matty Hapoya is a big fan of like a 16 to 35. He likes to shoot everything super wide, whereas Peter McKinnon is more of an 85 millimeter guy, so he likes it a little bit more zoomed in. So it really just depends. There's like a different aesthetic for both. So I think I personally would go for a 16 to 35 over a 50 millimeter, but every shot calls for something slightly different. It is really important to have a kit of lenses. There really is, as much as like I always tout the 18 to 105 as like the all-around lens for APS-C, there really is no like lens that does it all and does it all really well, you know? So Sunil says, ever thought of coming to the Caribbean? I live here. Dennis the Prescott came to my home. Oh yeah, Dennis is a Canadian fella who just did a Netflix series. That's cool. I would love to come to the Caribbean sometime. I'm not a huge like hot weather person, but yeah, I'd love to go there. What's the best lens for interview close up? So like if I'm shooting an interview, I'll usually have like a wide shot and then a close-up shot. And for the close-up, I'll usually, if I'm shooting APS-C, which my B camera often is, I'll usually use like the 30 millimeter f1.4 from Sigma, or maybe the 56 millimeter if I have a big room. So I like to do like a nice wide shot and then a close up. Thoughts on the 16-55 f2.8? It's from Jonathan. Sorry if you already answered this, just joined. Well, welcome, first of all. Thanks for joining the live stream. Cheers. Ow, did you guys hear me hit my teeth? 16-55. It's I've only used it for like a day and a half when I was at Sony Camera Camp, but it was absolutely fantastic. I would love to own it. I just don't really have a reason to buy it, because I have the Sigma 16mm and then I have the 18-105 as kind of my all-around lens for APS-C. So like I don't really I don't know. I've been struggling with that one because it is such a fantastic lens and I do want it, but I worry about buying something that's that expensive and not using it enough. But if you're like in the market and you need like an all-around lens for APS-C and you can afford it, and this is the asterisk that goes along with that, the 18-105 costs basically half, just over half the price of the 16-55. So you've got f4 versus f2.8 in the more expensive lens, of course, and that one is like super sharp and this one's not super sharp. So you are to some extent getting what you pay for, but I'm a value guy, and you get all the way from 18-105 on this one, so it's a little bit more versatile. Yeah, it's a tough call to make, but it just as far as like in a vacuum, the 16-55 or the 16-55 is a fantastic lens, absolutely fantastic. A little expensive, but fantastic. What else we got? Farts Photography wants to know if I managed to purchase my sound blanket. No, I did not. I've been looking for acoustic blankets, like proper acoustic blankets. I use like moving blankets right now, and they're okay. But I was looking for proper acoustic blankets that are movable and that kind of stuff, and they exist in the States, but if I buy $250 worth of blankets, it's like $220 worth of shipping. So if anyone knows somewhere in Canada, I can't find anywhere where I can get sound blankets in Canada, like proper acoustic blankets. So hit me up if you know. Could you recommend video lights, please? I definitely suggest the Aperture stuff if you can afford it. And it's not like the most expensive lighting out there. It's not like if you compare it to like what is being used on a lot of like movie sets and stuff like that, like Aperture is actually really nice and affordable, which is fantastic. I absolutely love their stuff. I'm using 120D as my key light, and there's a 300D up behind me as my kind of hair light here. But if that's out of your price range, definitely take a look at the Falconized stuff. The SO28TD and SO48TD are great. They're still not like, I wouldn't call them super budget lights by any means, but they do a great job, and they're kind of like set it and forget it really easy. So yeah, take a look at those ones. I have videos on most of those. Dunna, have you ever been to Texas? No, I don't think so. Super chat from Butterlight, Happy copy break, thanks a bunch. Thanks so much for joining in, and thanks for the coffee tip. All right. Looks like I'm caught up on the chat. We're going on 2 hours here. I think I'm about to call her a night here. I'm trying to do these things once a week. I'm trying to do it once a week, and I'm alternating weeks where I'm answering questions. One week I'll pick some kind of a topic, and then the opposite weeks I'm going to edit your guys' photos. If you guys want to submit photos to be edited, I announce that stuff on Twitter and Instagram. Make sure you're subscribed here so that you get to see the videos and they get announced for you. But also make sure that you are following me over on Twitter and Instagram. It's just at Dunna Did It. That's where I do a lot of my announcements announcements and stuff. So make sure you follow me over there. Thank you guys so much for coming out to the live stream, hanging out while I talked about lenses. Thank you guys so much for all of your amazing questions, and thank you guys so much for the generosity that you guys have given me, basically just from all the super chats and just from giving me your time and your attention. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you all so much. Thanks so much for coming out, and we'll see you guys next time, hopefully next week here. If I can figure out where the end stream button is, I'll do it. Thanks so much, guys. Later.